Tēnā koutou katoa. My name's Graham Gulbransen. I'm a GP, I'm an addiction specialist, and for the last 18 months I've been a cannabis physician in Henderson in Auckland, and I've seen 764 patients for CBD and about 50 patients for Sativex, which are really the only two products that GPs can prescribe. And yeah, just to address the handout that's going around, it's not really a handout, it's encouragement to go to the website, which is under the heading there, and this is the medicinal cannabis scheme. And really I've picked out the one major concern that patients and myself as a GP have raised, and if you look at the chart in the middle of page 1, the very right hand column, off-label, specialists can prescribe without ministry approval, or medical practitioner, in brackets doctor, I don't know what that means, can prescribe with a recommendation from a specialist. And look, that's the argument that I've developed over the next page as well. And I've highlighted at the bottom of page 1 a quote from an email from the Medical Council. I can confirm that you are a vocationally registered in general practice and that you are considered by the Medical Council to be a specialist in this area of medicine. And I've got a question to the Minister at the moment as to why, if the Medical Council says that GPs are specialists, why do they require another specialist to help us apply for Sativex? So we'll get to that shortly, but really my encouragement is for all of you to take the time and do something for our patients and for general practice, and argue that the requirement for another specialist is a nonsense. Okay, so where was I? I'll start by thanking Helius, thank you, and the professor for allowing me to talk, and thank you for my patients who have taught me so much, and patient advocates as well. And here's what I can tell you about the New Zealand system. We've already alluded to section 29, and I could be breaking the law by giving this presentation because in red, no person shall advertise the availability of any medicine to which this section applies. Presumably this is our Ministry of Health protecting the public. Well, I might have to stop my talk at this point, but I'll continue at the risk of breaking the law. We do need to talk about products and involve ourselves in education. How do we get medicinal cannabis in this country? I'll spend most of my time at the top, CBD products. I'll talk about Sativex approved, Sativex unapproved, and items 4 and 5, and I will salute the compassionate cannabis suppliers who are filling in a gap in this country because of the lack of doctor prescribers and because of the expense of prescribed medicinal cannabis. You can all find this online. This is the Ministry of Health trying to make it simple for us, and I'll go through it actually line by line. Yes, you just need to Google summary of approvals required, and really you don't need to know most of it, but let's just start at the top. So September 2017, almost 2 years now, all doctors in New Zealand have been able to prescribe CBD for any condition, for any patient. Now, the Herald editorial last week got that completely wrong. They didn't know it. Most doctors don't know it, most patients don't know it, lawyers don't know it, but any doctor in this room can prescribe CBD for any patient, for any condition. Products containing THC are unnecessarily complicated with regard to the regulations. So CBD, standard prescription form, and I'll show you an example shortly. CBD 25, which I no longer prescribe because I think it really doesn't work. So look, this is the only product that it's illegal for me to tell you about. It's Tilray CBD 25. That's their low strength. Typically I'll be prescribing their 100 milligrams per mil. So Tilray CBD 100. And at my local pharmacy, thanks Aaron, this is $350, which is the cheapest in New Zealand. The pharmacy makes a markup of $15 on a $350 product. An act of compassion to try and get costs down for patients. So made in Canada, extracted from cannabis, purified, dissolved in grapeseed oil, put in a fridge, put in a safe, sent to Sydney, sent to Christchurch, sent to Auckland, sent to your chemist, and then given to the patient. It's just bizarre. Bring it on, Helius. We need a local production and better access for the patients. Helius have not paid me to make that statement. So yes, look, this is the only CBD product we've got currently. It's a 25 ml bottle. It lasts about a month. And I've explained that it's actually stable, CBD is stable for 6 months out of the fridge. And there we go. What you'll see there is a copy of my standard prescription. And really, in MedTech, you'll find cannabidiol 100 milligrams per mil, section 29 reminder there. And so this is my starting script. Take 0.25 mils early evening and increase as directed. And there's the image of the Tilray product there. It's nicely presented. I do like it. It comes with a graduated dropper. The bottom number is 0.25 of a mil. And I tell patients to take it after meals, hold it under the tongue, try and get some sublingual absorption, keep it in the mouth as long as possible before swallowing. And you may just get some absorption there before normal absorption. And if 80% of it's passing right through you at that expense, you want to maximize the absorption. Some say that taking it with fatty foods such as chocolate or ice cream might enhance the absorption. So that's pretty much the only product that we've got readily available on prescription. Any doctor, any pharmacy, but you'll find that some pharmacies are better value than others. This is the dosing schedule from Tilray, and you can see that I've started with 0.25 of a mil in the evening. They cautiously suggested staying on that for 3 days. I ramp it up pretty quickly, and particularly those who are using cannabis already. I think you don't want to piss around with low doses for too long. Get up to quite high doses. And I think 4 times a day doses is more likely to be beneficial. So this is a very cautious approach, twice daily dosing. But I quickly get patients up to the equivalent of half a mil, which is 50 milligrams. I like the 100 milligrams per mil. Helius, it's an easy number to work with. So half a mil is 50 milligrams twice a day, or my preference is 0.25 mils 4 times a day. And curiously, that's what my patients often find is about the right level, 100 milligrams per day. So that's really CBD, and it's a good place to start. It's very safe. We've heard a lot about it today, and you just really can't go wrong. The next line really applies to Sativex, pharmaceutical grade product. Well, Sativex is the only one that we have that satisfies this criteria. And is it an approved condition like spasms and multiple sclerosis? So yeah, here we are. I've highlighted this line here, and basically all doctors can prescribe Sativex for multiple sclerosis spasms not managed by conventional medicine on the recommendation of a neurologist. So if you've got that recommendation, you don't need to apply to anyone. You just put the specialist name on the prescription and write it up. This is for the Sativex spray. and I'll open the box in a minute and show you what we've got inside. So that's the Sativex, which is equal parts THC and CBD. So Tilray CBD is pure CBD, and this is balanced equal THC and CBD. And so that's for MS spasms, but if we want to use it for unapproved conditions, that would be typically for chronic pain or for cancer symptoms or the side effects of cancer treatment, then currently this is called, well, we're not using it for MS, so we're into this lot here, and we need to fill out an application form. And it's a 2-page form. It needs a GP, specialist and patient to sign. Yes, so we've heard a bit about personalised medicine, and it's a pity we have to go through a specialist, because specialists are few and far between who support medicinal cannabis, and most of them don't get personalised medicine in the way that GPs do in our practices. So yes, addressing the letter that I've given you there, look, seriously, I do encourage you to go to that website, to go to page 54, look at table 4, and my concern particularly is this list here, where to prescribe anything with THC, more than 2% THC, such as the Sativex spray. This, under the proposed changes to the regulations, it came out on the 10th of July. We've got until the 7th of August to make a response to this. This still requires endorsement by a specialist. And on page 2, I've put a list of reasons that I can think of, and you may be able to think of others, why I think GPs are more appropriately positioned to support our patients to access something that may help when CBD itself is not effective. Just a little bit more about Sativex. So the current application form, it's not arduous, but it's demeaning. And I've had about 6 patients who've gone to their specialist, and they've been rebuffed by the specialist, and that's embarrassing. And if you're someone with chronic pain, my comment is it's adding distress to already distressed patients, requiring them to go and see a specialist and kind of beg for a signature on a form that this is the form. It goes to the Ministry of Health, who just about always tick it, showing that the whole exercise is rather pointless. So they're striking that ministry approval off the new regulations, but it still needs a specialist. So currently, GP, specialist, ministry, they're saying, no, we'll make it easier by removing the ministry requirement, but it's the specialist that's really the roadblock to patient access. So next slide. Start low, go slow. So what have we got here with Sativex? For $900, probably the best price in New Zealand, thanks to Aaron at Medicentre Pharmacy next to my office. For this, you'll get 3 bottles of Sativex spray. So it comes in a standard pack. GW Pharma in England grow it in glass houses. They harvest 70 tonnes of cannabis a year, purify it, put it in these little spray bottles, and each bottle has got 90 sprays. And so this is an empty one. You just spray it on your tongue or into the corner of your mouth there. It's basically THC, CBD in alcohol with peppermint flavouring. Some people love it, some people hate the peppermint flavouring. Also the alcohol. Tilray have a oil product with equal THC and CBD. It's almost impossible to get because the specialist has to apply and write the prescription. Once this is approved by the Ministry of Health, once you put the SAT approval number on your form, anyone can write the prescription. So it's kind of easy there. That's what we've got. And you can see on my chart here that, well, this is from the data sheet really, it's online, it's in the packaging. Start with 1 spray in the evening and gradually build up. If this bottle's got 90 sprays and the patient gets to this sort of level here, 1 spray in the morning, 2 sprays at night, 30 days supply in 1 bottle for $300, $10 a day. So I do hear erroneous quotes about this costing $1,500 a month. Well, in serious conditions where you're up to 12 sprays a day, I think that's about $600 a month. So it won't necessarily cost what's often quoted, but $10 a day is typically the amount that people will be paying for the Sativex spray. Adverse effects, well, we've heard those from professors talk there, dizziness, fatigue, and what were his 4 Ds, slightly different from these 4, I think. Feeling drunk. Euphoria is a curious side effect. Dysphoria, some report. Not everyone likes the effects of THC, especially older people. And we've heard earlier about the possibility of drug interactions. Very unlikely in clinical practice. Where do we go to next? Ministerial approval to prescribe pharmaceutical grade cannabis. See my arrow and red star. Please note the government does not support use of unprocessed or partly processed cannabis leaf or flower. So they seem to be unmoving on that. And there's kind of this notion that if it's plant cannabis, botanical cannabis, maybe that's the illegal stuff and it's too hard to police. Or maybe it gives people lung cancer. I think there are a lot of false assumptions that the ministry is making, where actually we've heard earlier that plant cannabis, when vaped or smoked, has rapid onset of action, which can be very good for pain or anxiety, and there are actually many advantages in that, but it looks like that's kind of off the agenda at the moment, sadly. It's better absorbed, it's actually more cost effective, but it'll be a while before we see that. Yeah, this regulation, I'm just going to move on briefly, quickly, because is it a non-pharmaceutical grade product? Well, I don't think anything's available in this line, and it's specialist only, and so really think Sativex, think CBD is the main thing. Let's move on to compassionate cannabis. This is illegal cannabis that is grown widely across the country and is provided by compassionate providers. Or I was at a course on Saturday in Melbourne on medicinal cannabis and mental health, and the term they were using was altruistic providers. There's a wee town called Nimbin, if anyone knows that, near Byron Bay, where they send out 200 packages a week around the country of compassionate cannabis, and they're not stopped by the police. It's illegal, but they're not making any money out of it, so they're not drug dealers in effect. And so people have got around regulations by offering compassionate services, and in this country the honourable term is green fairies, who are providing cannabis remedies. There's a lot of wisdom in this group of people, and you know, I feel that my prescribing of CBD and Sativex is very two-dimensional compared to the whole range of products that some of our green fairies have a huge depth of wisdom in providing for patients. So yes, if you want to know more about the rules, you can write to Medicines Control. And what else can we talk about? December last year, this regulation changed to allow those in palliative care possession of cannabis without being busted. And for any doctors here who are asked to write a letter on behalf of a patient, this is the approved wording, that my patient has an advanced, progressive, life-limiting condition and nearing the end of their life. And presumably with a letter like that, the police are less likely to hassle them. Let me just check with my learned friend. Are the police bothering people?
I think that some... Oh, sorry.
Here we go.
I think some people are still in the system, and... Okay, here we go. Stand back. I think some people are already in the system and their court cases are coming to the courts, but they're being dealt with very leniently, I believe. Discharge without conviction, with quite a lot of material, but not unreasonable for a very sick patient. So, but I still think there's that police discretion element, which still makes patients feel better.
And so the irony is that if I'm dying, I'm in palliative care, I can have the cannabis, but who grows it? Who gives it to me? They're not protected by the same regulation. So it's kind of an interim compassionate thing from our government. The next comment I'd like to make is that pharmacies, as we've heard, and doctors can actually import cannabis products. It can be complicated by the time you make the arrangements, pay the customs duty, pay the GST. My personal experiences of being burnt on importing because it didn't work out any cheaper than prescribed Tilray in the end. I believe that others have different experience. Now, when your patient says, how can I import CBD? So you'll find this information on the internet. If the package is addressed to the patient, labelled less than 3 months supply, and needs a prescription or letter from a doctor that states the quantity, strength, and form of the medicine. So as doctors, you may be asked to write a letter or prescription to cover that so that your patient can import. Curiously, while we know that in the USA, many states, I believe 33 states, I might be ahead of the professor in my counting, 33 states have allowed medicinal cannabis, but it's still illegal at a federal level. And if your patient is getting cannabis products like CBD from the USA, that may be illegally exported, and sometimes the labelling kind of fudges to get around that, and sometimes our customs stop it as well. So it may or may not be successfully imported by your patient. I'd like to talk about my own audit, and look, this is data that I've just got an email from the British Journal of General Practice. I've submitted a paper with the help of Professor Bruce Arrell. So submission is one thing. I hope that it'll appear in print before too long. So it's based on this data here. Last year, when I'd seen 400 patients for CBD, we did a count, the age range 2 to 94, most of them 2/3 over the age of 40. And look, I'm a GP. I was seeing patients, and I thought, I've somehow got to analyse what I'm doing. So I see patients, I get them to come back for a follow-up visit, and I said, oh, was it no good? Was it good? Was it very good or excellent? So I came up with a seat of the pants GP scoring scale, and I've also been running a quality of life questionnaire. Much easier for my patients to give me a score out of 4 than to fill out a quality of life form. Now, in your general practice and in my practice, here are my numbers, and around the world, this is typically the group of patients who are coming to us for medicinal cannabis. So you can see that half of the patients are chronic pain, and I can tell you that this is patients who have been in pain for months or years or decades, and pain of a whole range. And I was glad to hear Mike Barnes say that it doesn't seem to matter what the nature of the pain is, and a wonderful term with medicinal cannabis is it's transdiagnostic. The patient's symptoms are what we're treating, and as long as there are no red flags and the appropriate investigations have been done, then pain is pain, and I trust it if my patient says they're in pain. So cancer symptoms or the side effects of treatment: emotional distress, anxiety, depression, insomnia, ADHD, bipolar, a history of psychosis. I'm using CBD for this group. And neurological. And so here we've got the seizures, but let me tell you that a new group of people that I'm seeing more of are children on the autistic spectrum disorder, with or without seizures. But you'll all know the term from our paediatrician colleagues, challenging behaviour, and parents will tell you about their children with challenging behaviour. CBD just seems to be incredibly good at just calming or taking the edge off this, and very safe for this group, adults and children with autistic spectrum disorder. And I think the longer they experience these symptoms, the more likely they are to experience anxiety, or the term I like to use is emotional distress. And I think the CBD deals with all of that. So that's the group, but let's look at the kinds of things that I've been treating with pain. CBD is just so safe and so amenable to a wide range of conditions. So fibromyalgia, it is brilliant with fibro, and I can almost guarantee that it will work with fibro. And patients with fibro have anxiety as well, and often other symptoms, irritable bowel, and just go for the CBD there. It can be so wonderful. Inflammatory conditions, low back pain, neuropathic, as I say, central sensitization. Let's reset those receptors and bring things back to normal, and I think we can do that. Migraine. The cancer symptoms I'm treating: breast, bowel, a whole range of cancer, including GBM, melanoma, emotional distress, and I've mentioned this group here. Tourette's, I'm seeing tics, and again, you'll appreciate that our patients with involuntary repetitive actions have a huge degree of anxiety that goes with that, and they feed into each other, don't they? Pain feeds into anxiety that builds up the pain, and so do your Tourette's symptoms. And if we're working on the pain, if we're working on the anxiety, I think we help to settle the other symptoms, and people sleep better if they're less anxious. So CBD often helps with insomnia. And finally, neurological conditions, and I think it's not great with Parkinson's. I've seen one or two patients with Parkinson's pain where it has helped, muscle spasms, tremor, and often there is benefit. And just briefly, where are we? Slide 37, good progress here. So look, using my 4-point scale, this is the sort of outcomes that I've seen. And the loss to follow-up here is a big group. So I see patients, I ask them to come back in 3 or 4 weeks, because that's how long a bottle of CBD is going to last. And when they come back, they give me their score, and so I've counted those who didn't come back in the pain group. This third didn't come back because too expensive, didn't work, gone to their own GP. I don't know. I'm a GP. I don't have the resources to track down everyone and find out why. But to the right-hand side, I've bracketed 30%. And this is just at 1 month, reporting very good to excellent response from CBD for chronic pain. It's just so well worthwhile. It's giving people hope, and there may be an anticipatory benefit or a placebo, but let's do something to improve the quality of life for this group of patients. And looking at the outcome for emotional distress, again, I'd put anxiety as a really good responder to CBD. And neurological symptoms, again, 22% in my excellent to very good outcomes at 1 month. Sure, I don't know down the track how useful it will be, but we've made a good start with these numbers. And finally, cancer, well, follow-up, I saw about half of them. I think I'm seeing people with cancer who present late and may not respond that well, or many of whom have died before they've had a chance to come back for follow-up. Or CBD just wasn't the right item for them, and they would have been better on something with some THC, such as Sativex, in the first place. So that's my cancer outcomes, and where are we? Here we go. And just a few other comments there about the audit. Adverse effects: out of 250 people, 25 reported one of these. 5: sedation, dreams, irritability. Fairly minor side effects compared to a lot of our medications, if you think of the opioids or the antidepressants, etc., that we might otherwise be using. Dose range 40 to 300 milligrams per day. Curiously, a lot of patients find 100 milligrams per day is the right dose, and I was gratified to see Professor's figures also finding that. This is what my patients have told me. So look, CBD is easy in a way. Write your prescription, build it up to 100 milligrams a day if that's what they need, and you're likely to see some good outcomes. And my question to you: have you got any stuck patients where conventional medicine's not working? Anyone in the room got stuck patients? Look, as GPs, we all have, don't we? And this has revolutionised my practice. Every week I'm getting a couple of people who report back life-changing benefits from CBD. And I thought I was going to be prescribing junk. I did this audit because everyone said you need full spectrum, you need all the terpenes, you need a little bit of THC. And here we are, our regulations pretty much restrict us to just the Tilray CBD 100 at this stage. And these are the sort of results that I'm getting with something that really shouldn't be working very well. And bring on the local industry with the mix of terpenes, a touch of THC, that is going to improve the benefit. And I think in time with those of you in the room, starting with the CBD, that's the good news. It's available, it's an easy place to start, and get comfortable with that. And we're going to see a wider range of products in future, I certainly hope, that will give us the chance to add some potency to the medicinal cannabis that we prescribe. So emphasising again, all registered medical practitioners can prescribe CBD for any condition. Chronic pain, chronic anxiety, good place to start. Actually, CBD is in our software. And patients will say, I don't want to get high, I just want relief. Fantastic, here's CBD. It fits the bill nicely. And it's non-euphoriant, no risk of dependence, helps with a wide range of conditions, and every patient with a long-term condition deserves a chance to try it. Thank you for your time. I am happy to answer any questions unless I've used my allotted time. And look, seriously encourage you to do it, or to contact me. I know the first script is the hardest, and I'm here for you if you want to make contact and just get some more ideas about how to get things going. Thank you.